Counts and 3 counts starts now.
Ooh, what up, though, ladies and gents? It is another Tuesday. Happy Veterans Day to all who have served and gave for our country. But we are in rarefied air. We've got a debut episode tonight as we've got Richard Holliday joining the show, my man. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. And happy Veterans Day to everybody who has served.
Absolutely, man. All respect to anybody who puts it on the line for the great US of A, and we appreciate you with that. Before we hit the button, I was talking a little bit about this is one that those that have been watching Knockouts and 3 Counts for a while know that I've said that I wanted to make happen. With you doing everything that you're doing out on the indies and all those things right now, man, it's going to be dope to have you here in Michigan. But I got to take it back a little bit before we get to that. Where I first got to see you was when you were doing the Dynasty thing with MLW, with MJF and Hammerstone and all those things. And the guy that we see on our screens now and what you're seeing that if you come out to Clash on November 22nd, I feel like is a new, improved, and involved version of Richard Holliday. So before we get to what you've got going on right now, talk to me about the transition we see in the Richard Holliday we're seeing now versus maybe that guy that people might have been introduced to through Dynasty.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question. It's an evolution thing, right? It's a confidence thing. Me 5 years ago, I might have thought that I had it all figured out. I might have thought that, I was a finished product, or I was polished, or whatever that may be. Then you fast forward to now and you take a look back and you're like, well, I was really good then. I'm not going to take anything away from me in my former self. But I say this a lot. A lot of people might say I say it in jest, but I mean it truthfully. I go to bed great and I wake up just a little bit greater every single night. I really do. I go to bed great and I wake up greater. And you multiply that over days, weeks, months, years, I'm going to get really, really good. So now I'm 10 years into this business. I'm so confident. It's almost uncanny. The work that I'm doing right now is by far the best of my career. And listen, I envision that in a year from now, I'll be saying the same thing then. But the good thing about the fans who are going to see me at Clash, they're going to see 10 years in Richard Holliday. And you were a fan of mine 5 years ago when I was doing the MLW stuff.
Absolutely.
Still getting my footing, still learning who I am. I know exactly who I am now. But I go to bed great. I wake up just a little bit greater. I'm going to go to bed tonight. I'm going to wake up a little bit greater tomorrow. That's the beautiful thing about my life and the way that I operate. So right now I'm firing on all cylinders and I'm feeling great about it.
I love to hear that. How did getting to be linked up with guys like that? We've seen how MJF has ascended over in AEW. We've seen Hammerstone do a lot of stuff with TNA and all those things too. How much did that help you like early on to be around guys like that? Because I mean, you had to know and see what a lot of us see as far as MJF and stuff like that. Did any of that kind of help you to get your footing as you started out?
No, I think that I've always been extremely confident in myself. I don't think it ever mattered what I was, how I was positioned back then or who I was paired up with. I was always going to become the star that I am today, regardless of any of those circumstances or situations. It was always going to be about me and my elevation in this business. So no, I never really looked at it that way.
I get it. So like I talked about, I reached out to you personally, as those that follow the show know I've battled Crohn's and cerebral palsy and a litany of other things myself. And that's one thing that we always love to get into on the show, being like, people's stories outside of the ring, outside of the cage, things that you have to overcome outside of, just what you have happen in between the ropes and in between bells. You had health issues yourself, having to defeat cancer and things like that. Can you talk to me a little bit about going through that, at the time you did in your wrestling career and like your journey back to the ring and how that's kind of helped you evolve, like you talk about as you start this new phase of your career?
Yeah. So I will be honest with you. I don't love talking about it. It's not something that I like to bring up a lot. I like to just kind of put it in the past and not really talk about it. However, I will be honest. I am cognizant that it is important, and there are people out there who may want to hear things like this, and that's something that maybe I need to work on and understand that people might want to hear my story in hopes that they can overcome anything that they were overcoming with. I'll touch upon it briefly if you don't mind. For me, it was all the mind powers the body. If you believe that you can overcome things, you will, and that was always my mindset. So for me, it was more about like the rehabilitation behind it. It was like, all right, we're going to beat it, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to be the best version of myself when I come back, and I'm going to get better and better each and every day.
Love to hear that, man. Like I said, I totally respect that. As like I said, growing up with cerebral palsy like that, it's not something that I talk about a ton, but I love to give people the opportunity or a platform to be able to talk about those things, just because, like you said, you never know who can hear that and who that can potentially affect. Shout out to all of you guys who are watching right now. If you guys are watching, make sure you hit that like button, share button, subscribe button. It says we got about 125 people in here right now. If you guys got any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments. But I got to tell you, I've been very impressed by what we've been seeing on this latest run from you, not only just in the caliber of opponents that we've seen, like you said, the evolution in your game inside the ring. Is there any type of, like, as far as when you go and you see your opponents? I know you just did Reality of Wrestling, which two of our past guests, AJ Francis and Blake Bulletproof Troop, were on as well. You know, as you go through this run, I'm not just saying this because you're on the show. Like you said, I've been following your career for a while, but I truly believe you're one of the best unsigned guys that's out there right now. As you go to these different shows, man, like I've always equated, it's not the same, obviously, but I've always equated the indies as kind of like the modern day version of the territories to a sense. You know, a lot of people get to see in different states, a different crowd, a different audience, maybe somebody who's new to Richard Holliday. As you go to these different spots, with that being said, being a guy, like I said, who, you know, I think is one of the next guys up who needs to be on that radar. What's your mindset when you go into these different spots? As we talked about, you're getting ready to come to Michigan for Clash.
My mindset is wherever I am, that's the place to be. I make wherever I go the biggest deal possible. And I think that that's apparent on social media. I think I'm one of the very, very few who take advantage of social media on the independents and are continuously pumping out things that are promoting not only themselves, but where they're going to be. And because of that, I've grown my fan base to a point where, listen, I don't need a major company to let me know that I'm a star. I know damn well that I'm a star. And that's why each and every day when you log into either Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or YouTube, you're going to see Richard Holliday every single day, because I know how to make myself a big deal, because I am a big deal. And that's why companies all over the country bring me in. And you know, you're seeing things, which is very unfortunate, by the way. But you're seeing independent companies shut down. You're seeing wrestlers becoming more regional in the sense of, like, if they live in the Northeast, they wrestle in the Northeast. If they live in Texas, they kind of wrestle in Texas. I'm one of those people who I'm very fortunate. And maybe it's because of the equity that I built years past in companies like MLW, where I'm able to make my living on the independents and go all over the country and all over the world, really, because I'm in demand right now. And I don't blame companies, because I should be in demand, because I am the best. I really feel, I 100% feel that I am the absolute best unsigned talent in the on the independents. And if I was signed, I'd feel like I was the best in that company. But that's just the overwhelming confidence that I have. And that's the confidence that I think you need to have to make it in this business. It's such a ruthless business. It really is. Everybody wants the top spot. And I'm telling you right now, I want it more than anybody.
And to your point, I mean, like I said it already once in this interview, but I definitely, like I said, you can see a different level of a hunger, a different level of desire in some of the things that I see, you know, with what in your work you're doing right now in these different shows. You know, as you come into Clash, you know, Clash has been a show that's been around here in Michigan. I remember going to Clash shows when I was still in high school 15 years ago. So they have a lot of good equity built up here in Michigan. You know, there's always a good roster of talent that's coming here. What can somebody who's new to Richard Holliday expect when you make this Clash debut? And have you had a chance at all to kind of look at any of the talent there, or anybody that you might want to lock it up with?
I have. I'm very familiar with Clash. You know, being as busy as I am, I still like to keep tabs on all the independents that I have not been able to make a debut for. So Clash has been one where I'm like, hey, I think eventually when things line up, that's a spot I'd like to get to. They have a very good reputation, specifically in the Michigan area, obviously. And I'm expecting nothing short of a fantastic show. Now, for the fans who may not be familiar with me, and I understand that that's kind of the point of the independence is I know I'm smart enough to know that not everybody that attends that Clash show is not going to have social media. Everybody who has that Clash show might not look outside of what they see at Clash on a monthly basis, right? I understand that. A lot of wrestlers don't. So when I go to Clash, I'm going to make sure that on my debut, they're going to leave talking about Richard Holliday. And I have my ways. I have my little nuances of what I will do to make sure that these people never forget Richard Holliday. That's for damn sure. But what I would recommend for anybody who's watching now, who's planning on attending Clash, I would go on Instagram. I'd go on Twitter. I'd type in @mostmarketable. I know we usually wait till at the end of the show to plug social media, but I'm two steps
Plug away,
ahead.
my man.
I'm 2 steps ahead of you, pal. Go ahead on @mostmarketable and you'll see exactly what I'm all about. It's a possibility, I may just be bringing my signature move to Michigan.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is definitely something we need to talk about. I've said this for years on this show as we cover combat sports and pro wrestling. I've always said, you have one of the best signature moves in the business being that, hey, man, a shot to the nether regions works 99% of the time. So before we talk about that, talk to me about your signature move, man, because it's pretty deadly, man. And if somebody catches it on a 22nd, I feel like it could be another trip to the pay window for Mr. Holliday.
It typically is. Now, people like to associate my signature move in this negative connotation, and I just don't get it because people love my signature move. People pay money to see me hit my signature move. It's like when you see Shawn Michaels on the marquee, you want to see the sweet chin music, right?
Facts.
When you see Brock
Tune up the
Lesnar,
band.
you want to see the F5. When you see Richard Holliday, you want to see that signature move. And I'm always locked and loaded. I'm always ready to strike. I'm like lightning, though. You never know when I'm going to strike. And I think I'm going to strike in Michigan. Well, you know what? I don't want to say with overwhelming confidence, right? Because, there might be a situation where I don't hit the signature move. But I don't know if that situation is going to occur. I don't know. I think you need to show up to Clash and find out.
You do need to show up to Clash and find out. I know Knockouts and 3 Counts will be in the building, but that brings up a question I had. Again, we cover not just the stuff here in Michigan, but all around the country and all those kind of things. But, getting to go to Clash a lot, one person in Clash who tends to love to pick fights at Clash, whether it be with females, males, or anything of the like, is TNA's Jody Threat. What are your thoughts on facing somebody like a Jody Threat? Because then the signature move might be null and void.
Listen, I'm very familiar with a Jody Threat. I have wrestled Jody Threat for C4 in Canada, and she is one of my toughest opponents that I've ever been in the ring with. But I will say this. My signature move bears no gender, bears no race, bears no credence, bears no religion. I will hit my signature move on anybody. And if I hit my signature move on Jody Threat, it'll be purely out of principle. Maybe the effectiveness will be, not there. But Jody, don't think just because who you are, I won't hit the signature move on you. I'll hit it on you. Mainly just so I can get that social media shot, but also for the principle, because people want to see it. I'm always locked and loaded.
Locked and loaded and ready for the principalities, man. Another thing I noticed because I do follow you at Most Marketable, you got to tell me, where are we at with this collaboration with you and Pink, man? I keep seeing you talk about that. I use that song as the the backdrop for our promo today. Where are we at with the collaboration with Pink, my man?
Well, Pink has yet to reply to me. I don't know what she's doing. It's not like she has an album out right now. It's not like she's making relevant music right now. I have no idea what Pink is doing. I honestly feel like I'm reinvigorating people's love for Pink for that song. That song, My Signature Move, I said it in the first video, was absolutely a throwaway song for her. I don't even know if she remembers it, if we're being perfectly honest, but I'm making it popular. I need like an overwhelming amount of people to start streaming it. So she wakes up one day and she's like, why are people streaming this song that I forgot about? It's because Richard Holliday is making his signature move super popular. I will say this. I have a new angle.
What's the angle? Hit me with it.
I have a new angle. Let's just say I know who represents Pink, or I found out who represents Pink. And let's also say that their social media following is minuscule compared to what Pink's is. If you're picking up what I'm putting down. So eventually, everybody will find out who represents Pink. And we will let this representative know that this collaboration in good faith needs to happen.
You heard it. Put it into the universe. All of you guys who are watching here, whether watching, listening, wherever it is, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple or all those things, after you hit subscribe to Knockouts and Three Counts, of course, make sure you go stream that song and tell Pink that we need this collaboration to happen. You know, speaking of matches, shout out to my guy, Rob, from the Bob Culture Podcast over there in New York, man. You know, one of the things he told me that we needed to talk about, and you've already kind of alluded to it, and I was going to bring it up when you talked about your branding through the indies. It reminds me of another past guest of this show, and that would be one Matt Cardona. So talk to me about Matt Cardona and what happened over there at ACW, my man.
So Matt and I have a very interesting relationship. Matt likes to say that I am him. I just don't have the 15 years of television experience. And my counter argument to that would be, no, I just think that you're me and you needed 15 years of television experience just to get compared to me.
To get to where you're at.
To get to where I'm at. That's how I feel about the situation. Because Matt, who, yes, he is an expert marketer, salesman, whatever you want to call it on social media. He has 2 million followers across social media platforms. You don't get that on the indies, okay? So let's not act like he didn't have an absolutely massive head start. I'm not hating. Facts. I would do the same
just
thing.
Stating facts.
I'm just stating facts. I would do the exact same thing. I would take advantage of it. He's smart to take advantage of it, right? But sometimes, you know, he goes on there and he says, you got to do this, that, and the other thing. Well, you had 15 years in the Fed, right? But that's also why they call me the Fed killer. Because when
I ask about that next.
Yeah, that's why they call me the Fed killer, because when guys like Matt or Matt Riddle or Nick Nemeth or Carlito or Killer Cross, it seems like I'm the guy who wrestles all these people. I don't know if that's a coincidence or if that's the fact that I'm the best on the independents and they're like, well, I need to wrestle the best on the independents because, you know, I'm coming from the land of the giants or wherever the case may be. When they get into the ring with me, they quickly realize that the best wrestlers in the world are not just in the Fed. You can find them on the independents. And when you get into the ring with Richard Holliday, you learn exactly that. They've all been victims. They've all been victims of the signature move.
Hey man, I like I said, anyone that's been following the show for a long time, I've said for a long time, it's one of the most underutilized moves in pro wrestling. And you know what? I am not mad at you for being able to utilize it and use it to your advantage. Matt Cardona, if you hear this, feel free to give us another reply, my man. Shout out to TNA for having him come through for Bound for Glory. With that being said, you know, another thing that jumps off the page to me in your recent run, were you a fan of the model Rick Martel at all? I don't know why, but I feel like I got Rick Martel vibes off of some of the things I've seen you do as well.
Yes, I do. I like him quite a bit. I think he's extremely underrated and underappreciated, and he's not talked about enough. I would say a lot of people would have said that I draw a lot of inspiration from Ted DiBiase. Which I don't hate because I love Ted DiBiase. He's fantastic. But I would say I gravitate more towards Rick Rude.
Okay, I like that.
Rick Rude, I think, is, again, another guy who is so underappreciated and underutilized in terms of like modern discourse of who the best back then were.
He was one of the first guys to have like that physique too. And then people forget too, like between the Monday Night Wars and showing up between WCW and WWE, he was in ECW. You got all the stuff he did back in the golden era of WWF. I agree with that 110%, that Rick Rude is somebody who's vastly underrated. The other thing I wanted to get to as far as wrestling in current day, obviously you said that you follow a lot of what's going on the indies and things like that. One thing that we get a lot of varying answers from different wrestlers that have been on the show is like how much they keep up with what's going on in like the mainstream current wrestling. For you, being a guy who's out here on the indies and stuff, how much are you keeping like a noted eye to kind of seeing like the way things are rolling out in the big companies? And is that anything that you use to kind of help you, you know, tweak and prod things as you continue to grow your star?
So keeping an eye on it, absolutely. I think that you would be dumb not to. I think that would be so nonsensical to not take a look at what the major companies in the industry that you're working in are doing. That would be like a soft drink company starting up and being like, I don't care what Coca-Cola is doing. That makes no sense. So you need to see what's going on within the market, right? You need to always be doing your market research.
Got to be most marketable.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I have a degree in marketing, right? I'm a few steps ahead of everybody on that front. In terms of tweaking things and doing what for influence on me, probably not so much. I think that, again, me being 10 years into the industry, I'm finding what works best for me, how to market myself on social media. I'm seeing constant growth. So I am doing something right on that front. Who I am in the ring, I'm very confident in what I am and what I present. And when you see me and when you hear my music and see my gear and everything, I'm growing out this absolutely fantastic head of hair. I have the best mustache in the business. No, I don't really take what I see in the major companies and try and do that for me, because then
that makes you the same as everybody else.
Yeah, it's I do what is authentically me. And I think that resonates more. That resonates more with fans because they're not seeing a cutout of somebody else that they see on TV. I don't ever want somebody to go to a show that Richard Holliday is on and be like, well, he reminds me of this guy in this company. No, absolutely not. You're going to say, wow, Richard Holliday, that guy's the man, or I hate him.
Either or, they're talking about you, man.
Yeah, either or, I can care less.
All right, man. We also, like I said, cover the combat sports side of things. So you got to tell me, does Richard Holliday get down with MMA, boxing, any of those kind of things? Do you keep up with any of that stuff at all?
Well, if you saw in my preparation for my ACW championship match that I had against Matt Riddle, I went to a jiu-jitsu gym, and I really, I genuinely wanted to learn the craft. And, I just wanted to learn a couple of things. And, the guy who, what do they call them? Senseis or whatever, the dojo masters? I don't even know.
Depends on the school.
Yeah, whatever. They, they wanted me to like sign up for class. And I'm like, dude, no. I think I have a move that would, take care of myself on the street, right? I'm not really too worried about like Taekwondo or Muay Thai or anything like that, because I hit one signature move on somebody acting up and they're done. So no, I don't really do much of the MMA, the combat sports. Have a lot of respect for it. Tons of respect for it. What those guys and girls do is remarkable, but I do what I do.
Love to hear it, dude. I had to ask, like I said, with us covering the other side of it and being a purple belt in jiu-jitsu myself. All right, the last question that we usually get everybody out of here before I let you plug Clash Wrestling and remind everybody why you guys need to be there on November 22nd. But before I get to that, we've got a segment that we call locker room etiquette, but it's not what you would think. It's not trying to poke, it's not trying to pick, it's not trying to prod. It's either a pet peeve that you have, whether that be seeing somebody doing the ringer in the locker room, or a piece of advice that you'd have for a young talent. Before I let you answer the question, I'll give you a couple of the examples of the answers we've gotten. Josh Briggs, who we just saw wrestle on NXT, told us to bring your own squirt tape or squirt bottle, bring your own wrist tape. We've had wash your balls, keep your baby mama out the locker room. We've had don't just sit anywhere. Don't be too lazy to still be in the ring and keep yourself moving around. Don't be afraid to ask for advice. So if you could add anything to said list, whether that be an advice for a young talent or a pet peeve that you've got when you walk into a show, what might it be?
If I'm going to give advice to a young talent, what I'm going to say is, one, get brilliant at the basics, because I see far too many people not be brilliant at the basics, and then they want to do X, Y, and Z that they saw on TV, and really they've earned no right to be able to do that. That's on a case-by-case scenario. On a general scenario, I would say find something that makes you so unique that it forces people to pay attention to you. Because the absolute bare minimum expectation when you go onto a wrestling show is that you're a good wrestler. So if you think that just being a good wrestler is going to get you over in this industry, I think that you're wrong. And you should find something that is going to make you uniquely you. In terms of the spray bottle thing, I'm a hair guy now, right? So I'm a huge hair guy. I'll steal your spray bottle, because what are you going to say to me when I pick it up? Richard, you can't use
that signature move.
Too bad, pal. I'm already using it. So, as a hair guy, and a stash guy, I'm not going to really give anybody any advice on how to improve their presentation, because, I don't really care what you guys do, but that would be my advice. Would be find something to make you uniquely you. In terms of pet peeves, I mean, I don't know. There's probably a ton that I can come up with.
I bet there is.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are. Man, I'm sure I was just talking about something with somebody, but I don't want to do the thing where I sit here and I contemplate an answer for 45 seconds. That would be boring. I don't have one off the absolute top of my head.
It's all good, my man. I appreciate your time as always. And like we were saying, November 22nd, my man is making his debut over here at Clash Wrestling here in Michigan. Let everybody know one more time where they can find you, social medias, and what we've got in store on the 22nd, my man.
Absolutely. You find me on Twitter and X at Most Marketable. I promise that I am objectively hilarious. I am probably the best follow on Instagram right now. I think that is fair to say. Would you or not agree?
I can't argue with that, because like I said, just the pink campaign alone is hilarious.
Yeah. Well, yep. I just posted one tonight. I saw a chiropractor, and the chiropractor was working on my arm, because now I'm really locked in. I've been hitting so many signature moves lately that I had to get some work done. So go take a look at that. And in terms of my Clash debut, whoever I'm in the ring with, you mentioned Jody Threat. If it's her, I don't care who it is. If it's the main event or some other match, I'm sure I'm probably going to be in the main event because I'm a massive star, but I don't want to allude into anything. You're going to see a show. When you see Richard Holliday for the first time ever, you're going to walk out remembering Richard Holliday. And if this is going to be the second or third or fourth or fifth time that you see me, it only gets better.
You heard the man. You're going to be in RARIFIED AIR if you guys are out there. Come to 22nd. And all of you guys who are watching us and checking us out every week, we appreciate all 234 of you guys who are watching right now. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Shout out to HKA USA. If you guys need gear, use the code KO3C20. Get you some shin pads, get you some boxing gloves, headgear, whatever it is you need, whatever fits your fancy. Hit them up and tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you. And like we've been telling you, stay tuned. Next week, Raven will be joining us to talk about the new movie, Raven Nevermore. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm sure you never know what's going to come out of the mouth of Raven and what we've got in store with that. So until next time, in the in-between time, hit that button. Peace.